All right. So, this is kind of a first. I'm not sure how it's going to do, but I don't know. I just kind of decided screw it. Um, why not make a video on this topic? I mean, if anybody is qualified to, you know, do something like this, it would be me, I think. Anyway, so today what I'm going to be doing, of course, is tiering different um, Negima adaptions. So originally you have the original manga, and that's an obvious S tier. I mean, it really was. It was the original Negima story. It was very well done, all written and drawn by Ken Akamatsu himself. It was just great. Amazing story, great characters. It's really just how you got to know the story and the characters and all that. It was just really the only Negima thing you need to consume other than maybe UQ Holder. Just cuz like it's just such a complete portrayal of the story of Negima from beginning to end, right? And it has everything. It starts out as sort of an etchy slice of life comedy with like fantasy undertones, and then it just sort of gradually turns into more of a shonen as it goes on. It's great. And then you got Negi Ho. So, in case you don't know what Negi Ho is, it's basically this spin off of Negima where Negi is like older. He's at least a teen. I'm pretty sure he's an adult. And then like the students are all preschoolers. They're all like 4-year olds. And I just don't get why it exists cuz it's like, you know, as other people have pointed out, who's the audience for it? It can't be Negima fans because it's nothing like Negima, nor can it be young children because it's not exactly for young children. It contains a lot of etchy stuff like Negima does, which, by the way, I'm not against etchy, even if the characters are underage because they're fictional, but that's a whole other thing. But, my point is it's not for them. It's not for young children. It's not for, Negima fans. It's not really for people who are into like slice of life children's stuff either. Because, like, it's just not a good example of it in the genre. Like, if you want good examples of that stuff, like Yotsuba or Kotaro Lives Alone are both really good. Negiho just isn't. Um, so yeah, all in all, I put it an F because it just didn't have a reason to exist. But UQ Holder was it's either an A or an S. I'm not really sure which to put it in. What I read through UQ Holder, it's the sequel to Negima. It takes place like a century later. The protagonist is Negi's grandson, and it's all about immortality. And it's very shonen, of course. It's less fantasy shonen like Negima is, and more sci-fi shonen though. Um, yeah, basically UQ Holder's the name of some, I guess, sort of mafia-like group of. It's not really mafia though. They don't like do crimes, but it's sort of this like uh organization of immortals, I guess. And then Evangeline's in it. But she goes by a different name. I don't even remember what it is. Yeah, it's really good. It touches on like the importance of death and like how you would how you would I guess live life if you were immortal. And so in that sense, I do actually really like UQ Holder. It does make me think while still being really fun and cool as well. Overall, I think I like Negima more, so that's why I don't put it in S, but it's really good nonetheless. And then I added this one because it apparently exists, at least from what I read. So these are the introductory OVAs. They're basically they're very hard to find. I never found them, nor can I even find much info on them. Basically, so like every time I look them up, I just get the same thing that was just copied and pasted from Wikipedia, which kind of reminds me that I think JJ McCullough was right and Wikipedia kind of ruined the internet. But anyway, so basically the whole thing about basically they were like a series of OVAs that apparently came out before the Negima series even started. By series, I'm not sure whether they mean the manga or the anime. Anime would make more sense. Speaking of that, Negima 2005, it's like an E tier. Um, I actually watched the manga, the anime all the way through. I watched it twice, once like over a decade ago, and once like a couple few months ago. And yeah, I just didn't like it. Um, and there are things I liked about it, which is why I'm not putting an F. Like, I think the opening and ending were both quite good. I think the Evangeline arc was actually pretty well done, but it has a few problems. First of all, I really don't like the writing. The writing's just not like whenever they do something new and deviate from the manga, it almost never really works well. I say almost never because there are exceptions, but for the most part, it just doesn't work well. And what they do have, they very often just greatly watered down. I mean, the Kyoto arc is the perfect example of this. The Kyoto arc is just not a good arc. Well, it is a good arc in the manga, but in the anime, it's like 2 episodes long, and it's not even that interesting. Nor does it make nearly as much sense as it did in the manga. Um, so yeah, that's 2005, and then after 2005, we got 2006. 2006 kind of I respect it more than 2005. It kind of did its own thing. It was a little higher budget. The thing about 2006 though is um, I just had a hard time following it. That's why I'm putting it in D. Like I watched it and I just didn't really get it. And then we got the OVAs. These, well, I mean, I obviously already talked about that OVA, but then we got a few more OVAs. So the spring and summer OVAs, those are actually pretty hard to find. I found a copy of them on archive.org. Oh, by the way, I forgot. The reason why I'm putting the introductory OVA in C is just because I haven't seen it, basically, and I don't really want to make a value judgment on it. I have seen these. I think they actually deserve B. Um, so the spring and summer OVAs or Haru and Natsu OVAs, if you want to use what they're actually called in Japanese, they're these OVAs that were made for I don't know why they were made, but basically the first one, the spring OVA, that's based off of the part of the manga where Asuna gets mad at Negi, and then they have like some beachside vacation, um, you know, via via Ayaka, the class rep. It's a fine adaptation. I don't think it's as good as it was in the manga, but it works. Maybe I should put it down to like C. I don't know. And then the second one I actually do quite like. The second one's a completely original story and an actually pretty fun one. So basically, what happens is UA decides to start learning magic, right? So I guess she learns some spell that like binds somebody with the person they're meant to be with. So she decides to try it out by using it on Nodoka. And so then like a red thread kind of ties Nodoka's finger together with Negi, and then so they're like forced to spend the day together, and then they go to like a spa, onsen, I guess, sort of resort. Um, the whole class does, and so then Negi and Nodoka are kind of stuck together, and I don't know, I like it. I thought it was pretty good. I literally just watched these, by the way, so they're kind of fresh in my mind. Normally, I kind of give these things some time to simmer, but as of now, I'm thinking the spring OVA is C tier and the summer OVA is B tier. And then we got these OVAs. From what I understand, these are like they're even harder to find. I haven't actually seen them, but I've seen parts of them from like YouTube clips. I'll put them in B just because they seem like pretty faithful adaptations of the manga. I think the first one's like the festival arc, and the second one's like sort of the Magic World arc. I could be wrong on that, but that's my understanding. And then we got the final. So they did like a whole movie, I guess, based off the final, like the ending of Negima. I've actually seen it before, like a decade ago. Um, but it's kind of hard to find too. I'll put it in C because on one hand, I do recall it being a good adaptation for what it was. Actually, no, realistically, it's more like D. I don't even think it was as good as the ending in the manga. And even in the manga, the ending wasn't really a strong point. I mean, Ken Akamatsu was kind of getting busy with other stuff at the time, and so the ending was a little bit rushed. Not as rushed as like 2005, but rushed enough for the ending to not really be as good as the beginning or middle. And the anime adaptation, from what I recall, wasn't even as good as like the manga ending. And then we got the live action. That's just an F tier. Like, and the reason why I put it in F, I think it's actually worse than Negiho because it's just such an absolute chore to watch. And then the casting's not good either. Like, most of the characters are just generic Japanese girls, which I guess is realistic and kind of makes sense. But even like Evangeline is just a generic, just looks like a generic Japanese girl. It's like, why is she not Caucasian? She's literally a 600-year-old vampire from Scotland. Like, that doesn't make any sense. And then Negi isn't Caucasian either. That doesn't make sense either because, like, he's from Wales. I'm pretty sure he's meant to be Caucasian. So the casting's weird and it's just boring. Like, every episode is just an absolute chore to watch. I do not like watching it. I watched like a couple episodes and was like, yeah, I'm not enjoying this. And then the UQ Holder anime, I haven't seen it, so I'll just put it in C. And then we got the video games. So the first Negima game on PS2, I've actually streamed it before. There's not much to it. It's not bad for what it is. Basically, you play as Negi. It's sort of a VN, but like you still kind of run around an area, I guess. So you play as Negi, you like teach your class, you actually like do strategies for teaching, I guess. And then after you teach, you like run around Mahora and like talk to the girls there. It's not bad for what it is, but it's not really much. So I think like there is fine. Um, and then the sequel. I haven't played as much of the sequel, but from what I have played, kind of have I actually kind of have a positive view of it because they do a little more than the first one. And the second one, I guess it's supposed to be based off of like little ways into the story because now you can like, you know, do training with Kufei, and so there's actual like fighting sections in it. So it has a little something in it. I don't know. And then the beach one, that one's also a C. It's it's more the same, except now you're at the beach and all the girls are in swimsuits. Honestly, the two is probably better, but the beach, Otome Beach side, I think it's called, that one's not bad. And then four and five, I played a little bit of these. I didn't really like them though. And the reason why I didn't is because they're just so dialogue heavy. Like, oh my God. Like, it takes so long to get to the actual gameplay. And then the GBA games. So, these games, they're called Private Lessons and Private Lessons 2. They're based off 2005. They're RPGs for the Game Boy Advance. And weirdly enough, they're actually good. Like, I'm actually thinking of putting them, like, up here. Like I enjoy the gameplay legitimately. They're RPGs. They're sort of like card RPGs though. Karumi actually kind of doesn't like them. And the reason why he doesn't like it is cuz you walk slowly or whatever, which I don't get. Like you literally like you can move more quickly in it than you can in like a classic Pokemon game. I don't get his I don't really get that one. I'm not saying there aren't problems with the game, but I don't know. And then the DS games. So the first one, I kind of have the same problem with 4 and 5 for PS2. So these are like strategy games. I don't even remember what they're called. I think they're called like Legendary Battle of Mahora or something. So first one, I've actually streamed it before too. It actually takes place in Osaka, believe it or not. But like it's so dialogue heavy to the point where I just get kind of bored by it. Second one, much less dialogue heavy. I think, yeah, fuck it. I'll even put it in A tier. It's actually quite good. And then Neo Pactio Fight also gets an A. Neo Pactio Fight, another one I've streamed. It's based off 2006. It's like a Power Stone style fighting game. It's really good. Like, seriously, probably the best. I think I do like it more than Legendary Battle 2 for sure. It's so good. And then Sunday versus Magazine. Yeah, I'm thinking like a high B. Here's the thing. The gameplay is kind of jank for sure, like to the point where I do rage over it. I like on stream, I got so pissed off at the game, but at the same time, I can't really I can't dislike it, and the reason why is because the IPs are so good. I mean, it's not just Negima. Like, you can play as Negi, you can play as Kenichi from Kenichi the Mightiest Disciple. You can play as a bunch of fairy tale characters. To be quite honest, that's oh, you can play as a Hayate, the combat butler, so L likes it. Um, yeah, that's all I really recognize. But my point is, you can play as a lot of good niche stuff. So I do like it. And it's on PSP, so that automatically makes it better. Because imagine playing a game that fancy on a handheld. Exactly what the PSP was good for. And then you got the pachinko game. I'm just going to put it in F because I hate pachinko. Like, I've been to Japan before and I've been to their pachinko parlors. They are not fun places to be. They smell like cigarette smoke and they just give you automatic sensory overload as soon as you enter. They're loud as hell. I do not like them. Which is a shame because like I've seen the trailers and oh my god, it looks so complete. It looks like exactly what I would want a Negima anime to be like. Fuck 2005. Fuck 2006. Give us something like what the cutscenes from the Negima Pachinko game give you. And then lastly, we got the UQ Holder mobile game. I haven't played it. I'll put it in E tier because I don't like mobile games for the most part. There are exceptions, but I just don't expect it to be good. If I were to play it, like if I lived in Japan, I'd probably give it a chance, but I don't know. Anyway, yeah. So this is the tier list. I hope you like it. Thank you and goodbye.